The pasta is boiling on the stove, the kind my sister likes, thin spaghetti, not linguine, because she says linguine is too chewy and you should know that by now. The garlic bread is wrapped in foil in the oven. The salad is already dressed and sitting in the refrigerator because she prefers it cold. I've set the table with the good placemats, the ones we inherited from our grandmother, because tonight is special. Tonight, my sister Claire got her 6-month review at work. She told me this morning that she was nervous. So I came home early, skipped the happy hour my coworkers had been planning for 2 weeks, and made her favorite meal from scratch. I am 31 years old. I have a master's degree in accounting. I manage the financial audits for a mid-sized logistics firm downtown, and I have spent the last 7 years making sure my younger sister's life runs smoothly. She moved in with me when she was 22 and I was 24. Our parents had just gone through a brutal divorce, selling the family home, and Claire had nowhere stable to land. I had just signed a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment in Charlotte. The math was simple. She needed a place. I had a place. She's my sister. That was 7 years ago. The door opens at 6:47. I can hear her drop her bag in the entryway, not hang it, drop it, and kick off her shoes without putting them on the rack. "Something smells good," she calls out. I tell her dinner is almost ready, ask how the review went. She walks into the kitchen, opens the refrigerator, pulls out the salad I made, and sets it on the counter. She picks up a fork and starts eating it standing there. She doesn't answer my question. I ask again, "How did it go?" She shrugs with her back to me. "Fine. They're not promoting me yet. Said I need another quarter of strong performance." She turns around and there's something in her expression I can't quite read. Not sadness exactly. More like irritation. "Can you make the garlic bread crispier next time? You always take it out too early." I look at the bread I have been warming at precisely the right temperature for exactly 17 minutes. I say okay. Sure, I'll leave it in longer. She takes her salad to the couch and turns on the television. I stand in the kitchen and finish cooking dinner alone. I started covering most of the rent about 4 years ago. At the time, Claire had just left a job she hated, a marketing coordinator position that she said was soul-crushing, and she was between things, figuring out her next move. She paid what she could, which was usually around $400 a month toward a rent that costs me $2,200. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself she was getting back on her feet. She did eventually find another job, a project coordinator role at a design firm. The salary was decent, not extraordinary, but enough that the math should have started to shift. But somehow it never did. There was always something, a car repair, a credit card she was trying to pay down, a trip she needed for her mental health, a course she was taking to improve her skills. I never pushed. She's my sister. You don't push your sister when she's struggling. What I didn't realize, what I was too close to see, was that she had stopped struggling a long time ago. She had simply gotten comfortable. And comfortable, for Claire, meant me. The promotion I'd been working toward for 8 months came through on a Tuesday in March. My director called me into her office just before noon and told me that as of the 1st of next month, I would be moving into a senior audit manager role. A title change, a team of 4 reporting to me, and a salary increase of $22,000 a year. I sat in my car in the parking garage afterward and cried. Not sad crying, the other kind. The kind that comes when something you have worked for quietly and relentlessly for years finally lands in your hands and you realize you had almost stopped believing it would. I called my best friend Dana first. She screamed into the phone. I laughed until my face hurt. Then I drove home to tell Claire. She was on the couch when I walked in, laptop open, a reality show playing in the background. I told her I had news. I sat down across from her and told her about the promotion, the new title, the raise. She looked at me for a moment. Then she said, "Must be nice." I waited for more. A smile maybe, a congratulations, something. She turned back to her laptop. "I've been at my company for 3 years, and they keep moving my timeline. But sure, good for you." I sat there for another few seconds. Then I got up and made dinner. I told myself she was just having a hard time. I told myself she didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was good at telling myself things. 3 weeks later, I came home to find Claire on a video call in the living room, laughing. Genuinely laughing, the way she used to when we were teenagers, easy and loose. When she saw me, she held up one finger, wait, and finished her conversation. When she hung up, she was still smiling. I asked who that was. She said it was her friend Becca. Then she said she was thinking about going to Becca's bachelorette weekend in Nashville next month. 5 days. She was looking at flights. I asked how much flights were running. She said around 320 round trip, and she'd need spending money obviously, probably another 400 or 500 for the weekend itself. I did the arithmetic in my head without meaning to. She had paid me $200 toward rent that month. She had told me things were tight. I said something careful. I said it sounded fun but asked if the timing was okay financially, given what she had mentioned about her credit card. She looked at me. Her smile didn't disappear exactly, it just went somewhere else, somewhere colder. She said, "I don't need you to manage my money, Maya." I said I wasn't trying to manage anything, I was just asking. She said, "You always do this. You make everything about what I owe you. I'm trying to have one conversation about something exciting and you immediately go to money. It's exhausting." I didn't say anything else. She booked the Nashville trip that evening. I could see the confirmation email notification pop up on the TV screen she'd been casting her laptop to. I want to be precise about what I knew and what I didn't know, because I think it matters. I knew Claire wasn't contributing equally to the household. I had accepted that. I knew she was spending money on things that weren't emergencies. I had told myself that was her right as an adult. What I did not know, what I had no reason to suspect, because it required a level of calculation I couldn't attribute to my own sister, was what I found on a Saturday afternoon in April when I sat down to do my quarterly financial review. I do this every 3 months. I open everything, checking, savings, credit cards, and I reconcile. It's not exciting. It is simply what a person who works in accounting does. I opened my secondary savings account, the one I had set up specifically as a down payment fund for a house I had been planning to buy within the next 2 years. The balance was $4,200. It should have been $19,800. I sat very still. I looked at the number again. I opened the transaction history. Over the course of 14 months, there had been 18 transfers out of that account, each one between $400 and $1,200. Each one initiated from a device that was not mine. Each one sent to an external account I did not recognize. My hands were cold. I scrolled through every transaction twice. Then I took a screenshot of everything and picked up my phone and called my bank. The woman at the bank was thorough and patient. She walked me through what she could see on her end. The transfers had been authorized using the correct login credentials, my username, my password, and confirmed via an email that came to my account each time. I asked her to read me the email address on file for the secondary confirmation alerts. She read me an email address I had never seen. A Gmail account with a variation of my name, one extra letter, easy to miss, that I had never created. Someone had added a secondary email to my account, then used it to confirm transfers they had initiated, 18 times over 14 months. The fraud team opened a case within the hour. They flagged the account, froze the outbound transfer capability, and told me I would hear from their investigative department within 3 to 5 business days. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. There were only 2 people who had ever been inside my home consistently enough to access my laptop. One of them was Dana, who had been my best friend for 12 years and who had her own money and her own apartment and absolutely zero motive. The other one was sleeping in my second bedroom. I did not go knock on Claire's door that afternoon. I had learned enough from years of working in financial audits to know that the worst thing you can do when you suspect something is tip your hand before you have everything documented. Instead, I called Dana. I told her what I had found. I gave her the numbers. She was quiet for a moment. Dana works in HR and has a gift for processing hard information without dramatizing it, and then she said, "Maya, you need to talk to a lawyer before you talk to her." I said I knew that. I already knew that. Dana said she had a contact, a woman named Rebecca Holt who handled civil fraud cases. She could get me an appointment by the end of the week. I met with Rebecca on a Thursday morning before work. I brought printouts of every transaction, screenshots of the unknown email address, and a written timeline I had put together the night before. Rebecca looked through everything methodically. She asked precise questions. She did not seem surprised by any of it, which I found both comforting and deeply depressing. She told me what my options were. The bank's fraud investigation would run its own course and could result in criminal referral. Separately, I could pursue civil action to recover the funds. She strongly recommended I say nothing to Claire until the bank's investigation had progressed and I had copies of everything I might need. I asked her, quietly, whether she thought it was possible this was some kind of mistake, some kind of identity theft from outside. Rebecca looked at me over the paperwork and said that was possible. She also said the pattern of transfers, consistent amounts, Consistent timing, no large single withdrawal that might trigger an alert, suggested familiarity with how I managed my account. Someone who knew I wouldn't check it frequently. Someone who knew my habits. I drove to work after that meeting and sat through 3 hours of meetings without absorbing a single word. The bank's investigator called me back the following Tuesday. His name was Mr. Okafor. He had a calm, even voice, and he delivered information like someone who has had to say difficult things many times and has made peace with that work. He told me that their forensic team had traced the login access to a device connected to my home Wi-Fi network, not my laptop, a tablet. I keep my laptop on my desk in my bedroom. I keep the household Wi-Fi password written on a note card inside the kitchen cabinet where we keep the router so that guests can connect easily. It had never occurred to me to think twice about it. Claire has a tablet. She uses it on the couch every evening. Mr. Okafor also told me that during their review they had found something else. 18 months ago, there had been an address change request on my account, a request to add a secondary mailing address. That address was a P.O. box in a neighborhood across town that I had no connection to. Someone had tried to redirect my statements. The request had been flagged and rejected by the system because it came from an unrecognized device, and the alert had been sent to my email, an email I apparently hadn't noticed, because it came during a period when I was traveling for work for 3 weeks and coming back to hundreds of messages. He told me the findings would be forwarded to the bank's legal team and that law enforcement might be in contact. I thanked him. I hung up. Then I sat in my car in the parking garage, the same parking garage where I had cried about my promotion 2 months earlier, and I allowed myself to feel what I had been holding at a distance all week. It was not grief exactly. It was closer to a specific kind of vertigo, the feeling of realizing that the floor you had been standing on was never solid. That someone had been looking at your life and seeing not a sister, not a person they loved, but a resource. A system to be accessed. A door with a lock they had already figured out. I thought about every dinner I had made. Every month I had carried most of the rent without complaint. Every time I had swallowed something sharp because I didn't want to make her feel bad. Every time she had told me I was being controlling, or exhausting, or that I made everything about money. I thought about how effective that had been. How completely it had worked. I said nothing for 2 more weeks. I know that sounds impossible. I want to explain it accurately. It was not passivity. It was precision. I had spoken with Rebecca again, and she had advised me to allow the bank's process to develop before doing anything that might be characterized as confrontational. I was also, during those 2 weeks, doing my own work. I was organizing, documenting, quietly opening a new savings account at a different bank entirely, quietly redirecting my direct deposit, quietly changing every password on every financial account I owned, from a device Claire had never touched, using a Wi-Fi network that was not my home network. I did all of this carefully and without rushing. I had spent 8 years learning to be methodical. I was applying that skill to the most important audit of my life. During those 2 weeks, Claire was normal. That is the word I keep coming back to. She was completely, utterly normal. She complained about her commute. She asked me to pick up her dry cleaning because she didn't have time. She made plans with friends on weekends and came home late and left dishes in the sink. She watched her shows on the couch and asked me to keep my work calls quieter because they were distracting. There was not a single moment where she seemed to be carrying anything. Not a flicker of guilt. Not 1 second of hesitation. I watched her and I understood something I hadn't before. The transfers hadn't felt wrong to her. Somewhere in her mind, she had justified them. I was the one with money. I was the one with the good job. I had more than I needed, and she had less than she wanted, and in her accounting if she had done any accounting at all that made it reasonable. The night before I had arranged for Rebecca to come to the apartment, Claire asked me if I wanted to watch a movie together. She said she'd let me pick. I said sure. I picked something. We watched it side by side on the couch. I thought about the $15,600 she had taken from the account I had been building for 4 years. I thought about my grandmother's face, and the apartment I had imagined having a backyard in someday, and the version of my life I had been saving toward. When the movie ended, she said it was good and went to bed. I washed both our glasses and set them on the drying rack. Rebecca came to the apartment on a Saturday morning, along with a representative from the bank's legal team. I had asked Claire the night before if she would be around in the morning because I needed to talk to her about something household-related. She said sure. She didn't have plans until the afternoon. I made coffee. Claire came out in sweatpants, poured herself a cup, and then stopped when she saw Rebecca and the man from the bank sitting at the kitchen table. She looked at them. She looked at me. Something moved across her face. She asked what was going on. I told her to sit down. She sat. Rebecca introduced herself and the bank representative. She explained that they were there regarding a fraud investigation that had been opened on my accounts. She did not raise her voice. She used the same even, clear tone I had heard her use in our meetings. She stated the amount. She stated the number of transactions. She stated the method, the secondary email, the tablet access, the home Wi-Fi network. Claire's coffee cup was on the table in front of her. She didn't touch it. She started to say something about how she didn't know what they were talking about. Rebecca opened her folder and placed a single printed sheet on the table. It was a log of the device access timestamps, IP address matching our home network, the tablet's device ID. Claire looked at the paper. The room was very quiet. She tried a different angle. She said things had been hard. She said she had been struggling and she didn't know how to ask for help. She said she had always planned to pay it back. She said she knew it was wrong, but she was going to fix it. She just needed time. I listened to all of it. I let her finish. Then I said quietly that I had given her 7 years. I had given her a home and covered her expenses and asked for very little in return. And during that time, rather than asking me for help, which I would have given her, because she is my sister and I love her, she had instead decided to take from me in secret, 18 times, over 14 months. While telling me I was controlling for asking if she was okay financially, I told her that the bank's legal team would be in touch with her directly regarding next steps, and that I had retained Rebecca to pursue civil recovery of the funds. I told her that I had also spoken with the property manager of our building and that I would be assuming sole tenancy of the apartment. I had already had the locks changed that morning, while she was asleep. Her things would need to be out within 30 days, per the terms Rebecca had outlined in a letter I slid across the table to her. Claire looked at the letter. She looked at me. She said my name. She said it like a question. I said I hoped she found stable ground. I told her I genuinely meant that. Then I stood up, because there was nothing else I needed to say, and I went into my bedroom and closed the door. The bank's fraud investigation concluded 6 weeks later. The civil case was still in early stages. These things move slowly, but Rebecca was confident about the recovery. The criminal referral had been passed to the district attorney's office. I didn't know what would come of it, and I had made peace with not controlling that outcome. What I knew was this. I had a new savings account with an amount in it that was mine alone. I had a job I was proud of. I had a new title on my email signature and a team of 4 people who sent me questions I was genuinely glad to answer. I had a friend named Dana who came over the weekend after Claire moved out and helped me rearrange the furniture so the apartment felt different, felt like mine, felt like I had chosen it rather than grown around it. I repainted the second bedroom, a color called mineral blue. I turned it into an office. I put my grandmother's placemats in a box in the closet, not thrown away, just set aside, and bought a new table runner in a color I chose for myself. I started looking at houses again. Properly this time, with a real estate agent and weekend viewings and an honest timeline. I thought about Claire sometimes. I thought about who she had been when we were small, before everything got complicated, a kid who followed me everywhere, who wanted to be included in everything I did, who used to fall asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder during movies. I thought about when that had changed and whether there was a specific moment or whether it had just shifted gradually, like erosion, the way so many things do. I didn't have an answer. I'm not sure I needed one. What I had instead was a Saturday morning with nowhere to be, and a second cup of coffee, and a house listing open on my laptop with a backyard that had a garden bed along the back fence. The previous owners had planted lavender and rosemary and something that might have been mint. I sat with that image for a while. I thought about how much things can grow when they finally have the right conditions. Then I saved the listing, finished my coffee, and called my real estate agent to schedule a viewing.